I knew. He looked at me like he'd never seen me. You reached into a willing release and overrode it.
Ava.
The founders built the right so the catalyst could be bound and never command. That's the whole architecture. That's 300 years of law. 4 Crowns. Episode 12. The One Who Stays. Written by Mia. I was out of bed and into the corridor before I'd finished waking, the thinning tide thread dragging at my chest like a tide going out with something of mine in it, and I ran straight into Bram, who was already there, already moving, already knowing, because iron feels a brother, leaving the way a body feels a bone go wrong. He's releasing himself, I said. I know. Bram's voice was a low growl, the iron shape barely contained under his skin, his eyes blown wide with the particular terror of a man who has already lost one family and recognizes the shape of losing another. I felt the thread go slack an hour ago. I've been standing outside your door telling myself you'd stop him with words, because that's what you do. You stop things with words. He was already pulling me toward the stairs, toward the Tide District, toward the deep water. But words don't work on Rune. You can't out-talk the holder. He's been deciding to let go of things his whole life. It's the one thing he's better at than any of us. So we're not going to talk him out of it. We're going to go down there and physically refuse to let it happen, and if House Tide tries to stop us, I am going to go through House Tide. Move, Keystone. We don't leave family to the arithmetic. You taught me that. Now I'm teaching it back. We went through the sleeping city at a dead run, down through the curing pools, down toward the still black water where Rune goes to be most himself, and the whole way Bram stayed a half step ahead of me, clearing the path, his whole enormous body between me and every shadow, and I understood something about him in the running that I hadn't let myself see in the standing still. Bram is the one his house sends first. Always first. Into every fight, every breach, every dangerous dark. The best son of House Iron, spent at the front of every battle because he's the strongest and because a house that breeds weapons does not keep its sharpest one safe at home. He has spent his whole life being the one who goes ahead so others don't have to, the one used up first, and he has never once, not in his entire life, been the one anyone ran toward. And here he was running with everything he had, not to be spent, not sent ahead by anyone, but because he had chosen, with his own feral loyal heart, that he would die before he let our family lose a single one of us. The iron shape isn't a weapon when Bram wears it for love. It's a shield with a person inside it. I had spent my whole life flinching from people who said they'd protect me, because protection in my experience always came with an invoice, a behave or else, a thing you'd owe later for being kept safe now. Bram's protection had no invoice. I checked, the way I check everything, waiting for the bill to come due, and it never did. He guarded me the way other people breathe, without deciding to, without keeping score, and the not keeping score was so foreign to me that for weeks I had mistaken it for simplicity. It wasn't simple. It was the rarest thing I had ever been handed, a strength that wanted nothing back. He caught my hand at the top of the last stair, just for a second, and pressed it hard against his chest where the iron thread ran, and didn't say anything, because Bram says the enormous things with his body. I'm here. I've got you. We're not losing him. I'm not losing you. And I felt all of it come down the thread at once, and had to clamp down on the bond before it surged, because even Bram's wordless devotion in a stairwell was enough now to make the world lean toward ending. Hold it, he murmured, feeling it too. Hold it, Keystone. Lean on the iron. That's what iron's for. And I did. And we went down into the dark together. Rune was at the edge of the deep water, and he was already most of the way gone. He sat the way he always sits, perfectly still, deep and calm, and the tied thread between us was a thread now in truth. The thick, warm blue rope of it worn down to a single thin filament, the holder methodically opening his hand finger by finger the way the sea takes a beach, gentle and patient and almost done. He didn't turn when we came in. He just said to the water, "You should not have come." This is the easy version, Ava. The clean cut. By morning you'll have 3 strong bonds and no impossible choice, and the council will have its safe source, and everyone lives. I worked it out. It's the best available outcome. Let me finish.
No, I said.
You can't stop it. A holder's release isn't something done to me. It's something I'm choosing, and you of all people know you can't force a person to keep a bond they've chosen to open. I'm not going to force you, I said, and my voice broke on it. I'm going to refuse to let you do this alone in the dark to spare me a choice I already made.
I chose Rune.
Days ago, I chose all 4 of you, and not choosing between you is the choice, and you trying to make yourself the casualty, so I never have to be brave isn't mercy. It's you deciding you know better than me what I can carry. I went to my knees at the edge of the black water beside him. You said a holder holds by knowing when to open his hand.
Fine.
But you never once asked what the thing you're letting go of wants. You don't get to decide you're the one I can live without. That's not your call. That was never your call. It's mine, and I have made it, and the answer is no. For a moment the holder just looked at me, and I watched the deep water of him war with itself. The lifelong certainty that the loving thing is to remove yourself before you become a burden, against the brand new and clearly terrifying possibility that someone had looked at the whole cost of keeping him and decided, eyes open, to pay it anyway. I knew that war. I had been fighting it my entire life from the other side of it. It is a strange thing to watch your own deepest wound open up in the face of someone you love, and to realize the only medicine you have for it is the exact one nobody ever once gave you. Staying. No, I said again, softer. And then the thread guttered, the last filament of it starting to go, and I felt Rune begin, truly, to slip away, the deep blue presence at my back that had anchored me since the binding, receding into the still water like a held breath finally let out. And I did the thing I did not know I could do until I was already doing it. I reached into the bond, not to hold it shut, the way I'd been doing for weeks, white-knuckled against the reunion. For the first time I reached in to move it, to take the receding tied thread in something that wasn't my hands and refuse to see its return.
And the bond answered me.
Not the founder's right, not the rules carved 300 years ago, not the law that says a holder's willing release cannot be undone me. The threads turned toward my will like iron filings toward a lodestone, like 4 shards recognizing the only thing that had ever been able to command them, and I understood in one vertiginous instant that the catalyst was never just the thing that makes the shards want to come home. The catalyst is the thing they obey. The reunion lunged. Of course it did. I'd opened my will to the bond, and the whole drowned god surged for home, the 4-colored light roaring up off the black water, and for one terrible second I was holding the apocalypse open with one hand and hauling a champion back from the dead quiet with the other, and it was too much. It was always going to be too much. Iron. Bram's voice, and his arms around me from behind, and the iron thread flooding into me hard and absolute, a foundation, a thing to stand on. I've got you.
Pull him.
I'll hold the rest. That's what I'm for. And with Bram a wall of bedrock at my back holding me against the surge, I took the thinning tied thread in my will, and I pulled Rune home, pulled him back across the threshold of his own release, against the holder's own choosing, because the catalyst commands the bond, and the bond is not. It turns out a democracy, and I slammed the reunion shut behind us, and the light died. And Rune came back into his own body at the edge of the water with a gasp like a man surfacing from very deep. For a long moment, none of us moved, me on my knees, Bram's arms around me, Rune surfacing, the three of us tangled at the edge of the black water in the dark. Then Rune said, wrecked and wondering, "You pulled me back." I opened my hand all the way. The sea doesn't give the water back. It's the one law. And you, he looked at me like he'd never seen me. You reached into a willing release and overrode it.
Ava.
The founders built the right so the catalyst could be bound and never command. That's the whole architecture. That's 300 years of law. And you just moved it, like it was yours. It is mine, I said, shaking, terrified of the words even as I said them. That's what the keeper was trying to tell me. The threads aren't the founder's leash on me.
They're part of me.
The shards don't just want to come home through me. They answer me. I can't believe I didn't. I've been holding the bond shut by hand for weeks like it was a door I was bracing. It was never a door I was bracing. It was a door I own. I turned and took Rune's face in my hands, the holder who'd tried so quietly to let himself go. So hear me, because I'm only saying it once. You do not get to leave this family to spare me anything. None of you do. I am done being saved by people deciding I can't handle keeping them. You held everyone your whole life and never once let yourself be the thing held. Well, I pressed my forehead to his, the way they do to me.
You're held now. By me.
Get used to it. And Bram, still wrapped around the both of us, made a low sound that might have been a laugh and might have been a sob and said, "Nobody leaves. That's the new rule. Anybody else plans a noble exit, I will personally drag you back by the collar. We're a set. You don't break the set." But I had pulled a champion back from a willing release in front of half of House Tide, and you cannot do a forbidden, impossible thing in front of witnesses and have it stay quiet. By the time we climbed back up into the gray morning, it was already moving through the city ahead of us, fast and frightened. The catalyst had overridden a holder's free release. The one act the founders' whole architecture swore was impossible. Vaymore had spent 3 nights afraid of a woman who could end them by accident. Now it had to reckon with a woman who could reach into the most sacred law of the right and simply rewrite it by wanting to, who could not, it turned out, be safely severed at all, because she could pull back anything they cut. The council's whole merciful solution had just been proven worthless, and the city's fear curdled into something worse. And somewhere in her hiding the Lady of Shadow, I had no doubt, was smiling, because every time I proved I could not be contained, I proved her point, that the catalyst was too dangerous to leave whole. And the worst of it was the small, traitorous part of me that wondered if she was right. I had just rewritten 300 years of the most sacred law in the city by wanting to. I had reached into a thing the founders built to be unbreakable and bent it like wire, half awake, in a panic, to save one man. So what could I do on a bad day? What could I do if I were ever truly enraged, or truly grieving, or truly afraid? The whole city was terrified of the catalyst. Standing in the gray morning with a new power humming in me like a second pulse, I understood, for the first time, that I was a little terrified of her too. And underneath the fear, in me, a small cold certainty was growing because I finally understood the shape of the third path. If the threads were mine, if I could command the bond, not just suffer it, then I did not have to choose between the council's cage and the founder's apocalypse. I could do the thing no catalyst in 300 years had been able to do, The thing the founders were too frightened to allow, and the keeper had drowned itself praying someone would one day dare. I could remake the right, retie the bond on my own terms, build a binding that held the city without caging me, that let me love all four without the world ending, that answered the keeper's question, heal or contain, with a third word the founders never had the courage to say. But I didn't know how, and there was only one thing in Vaymore old enough to teach me. I turned toward the deep tide district, toward the deep heap, toward the drowned voice that had watched every keystone the city ever made, and the moment I made the choice, before I'd taken a single step, the black water far below us stirred on its own, and the keeper's voice came up through 300 feet of stone and into my skull unbidden, answering my decision before I'd spoken it, the way deep things answer the catalyst now. Yes, it said, vast and sorrowful in the dark. Come, little catalyst. I will teach you to remake the cage. But understand the price before you descend, because the founders understood it, and it is why they chose the cowardice instead. The water churned. To remake the right, you must first unmake it. You must let the four shards come all the way home. Open the door you have been holding shut. Finish the reunion, become the whole drowned thing your blood used to be, and trust that what stands up afterward is still Ava, and still loves four men, and still wants to put the god back into a shape a city can survive. The founders could not believe a person would come through that hole, so they never tried. A pause, and the dark seemed to lean toward me. You want a third path. The third path runs straight through the apocalypse you have spent every night holding shut. There is no remaking the cage without first opening it all the way. Come down, and we will see what you are on the other side of becoming everything. To be continued. That was episode 12 of 4 Crowns. If the 4 of them have you now, the next episode is already waiting. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The complete book is on Amazon, and early episodes plus bonus scenes are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I'm Mia.
Thank you for listening.